Donald Trump is getting stuff done. I mean, it's amazing. I mean, you even look at just the people that are trying to stampede the border right now. That's not happening. Nobody wants to come here because they know exactly what's going to happen. As soon as they get here, they're going to be not only sent out, you could wind up in Guantanamo Bay or worse, one of the El Salvador prisons. I mean, they're not messing around. They're not messing around. Take a look at what's going on at USAID. You see this video? This was tremendous. They're taking the letters right off the darn building. USAID that was giving out some, 70 billion one year, 40 billion another year to journalists all around the world, including some very important groups right here at home, like the New York Times and Politico. I keep saying, like, you knew NPR, you knew PBS, they were supported by taxpayer funds. You didn't know the New York Times and Politico was getting any, did you? Well, sure enough. I mean, I guess that's why they hate Trump so much, because the money spigot was going to be closed. And sure enough, it is closed. It's so closed that if you mess up and you try and do anything sly, you're going to get fired. 4 FEMA employees, they have been fired because guess what was just discovered? They were trying to send money to New York City hotels. This is unbelievable to me. I mean, 5-star hotels getting $59 million because they need to house illegal people. I mean, what about the money for the hurricane victims in North Carolina or Florida? Forget about them, you know. Those fire victims, right? Out in California, forget about them. No, we're going to get the money to the luxury hotels in New York City to cover the migrants' luxury hotel bills. Donald Trump putting out on Truth Social, FEMA spent tens of millions of dollars in Democrat areas disobeying orders, but left the people of North Carolina high and dry. It is now under review and investigation. The Biden-run FEMA has been a disaster. FEMA should be terminated. It has been slow and totally ineffective. Individual states should handle storms, etc., as they come. Big savings, far more efficient, says the businessman, says the developer, who kind of knows the importance of using local resources and how the local people kind of have a better handle on things. You know, when you can make your government smaller, not bigger, for goodness sakes, it'll be more efficient that way. He wants to get rid of it.
On an executive order to begin the process of fundamentally reforming and overhauling FEMA, or maybe getting rid of FEMA. I think, frankly, FEMA is not good. I think when you have a problem like this, I think you want to go and whether it's a Democrat or Republican governor, you want to use your state to fix it and not waste time calling FEMA. And then FEMA gets here and they don't know the area. They've never been to the area, and they want to give you rules that you've never heard about. They want to bring people that aren't as good as the people you already have. And FEMA's turned out to be a disaster. And you could go back a long way. You could go back to Louisiana. You could go back to some of the things that took place in Texas. It turns out to be the state that ends up doing the work. It just complicates it. I think we're going to recommend that FEMA go away, and we pay directly. We pay a percentage to the state, but the state should fix this. If the state did this from the beginning, it would have been a lot better situation. I think you guys agree with that, right?
Yeah. 59 million just last week. So Donald Trump comes into office and it's like the FEMA employees don't hear anything. They skedaddled to get 59 million to luxury hotels. It's unbelievable. Like, it's crazy. And you know what? This is what was going on. You saw the report, New York City hotels. This is from 2024, over the summer. They apparently raked in over $1 billion in taxpayer funds, including one in New York City, the Roosevelt Hotel that was getting $200 million. And guess what? The hotel is owned by Pakistan. I mean, you can't make this, I'm not going to say the word up, okay? You just can't make it up. You can't make it up. It's worse than you could have ever possibly imagined. And this was all going down as there were these horrible storms in places like North Carolina, in places like Florida. And guess what Mayorkas had to say? Head of Homeland Security. He's like, we're out of money. We got more storms coming. We're out of money. No money for these people.
We are meeting the immediate needs with the money that we have. We are expecting another hurricane hitting. We do not have the funds. FEMA does not have the funds to make it through the season.
Yeah, remember this? I showed you this at the time. FEMA was out there giving out all kinds of money to every Tom, Dick, and Harry. New York City to get $100 and nearly $5 million from FEMA for asylum seekers. You had the Department of Homeland Security announcing $300 million in direct funding for communities retrieving migrants and $340 million for a new competitive awards process. FEMA awards $110 million to emergency food and shelter programs to assist migrants. So all this is going down while people are struggling. And you know what? People started to ask, hey, well, why is there all this money that FEMA has $77 million in congressional funding for communities receiving migrants? Why is there all this money, yet there's no money for the Americans that are actually here? And guess what we were told, ladies and gentlemen? Fake news, disinformation, don't go there. Here's KJP at her finest.
Great question. Combating misinformation and disinformation is always, always critically important. It is. You heard the laydown that I gave at the top. The reason I did that at the top is because we wanted to make clear that things are available to the public, folks who are impacted, and that misinformation, disinformation is indeed dangerous. It gets in the way in what we're trying to do here. It does. And there's been a lot of falsehoods. And let me just fact check a couple of things because it's really important. It is wrong, it is dangerous, and I also called out there are important people who have power, privilege, who are spreading these falsehoods, and they need to stop. They need to stop doing that. So, disaster relief, this is a falsehood. Disaster relief funds used on immigrants illegally in the U.S. The fact is, no money is being diverted from response needs. That's the fact.
Okay.
Another falsehood.
Okay, despite the fact that Mayorkas did tell us this.
We are meeting the immediate needs with the money that we have. We are expecting another hurricane hitting. We do not have the funds. FEMA does not have the funds to make it through the season.
Yeah, okay, so I'm sorry. You know what? Eric Trump put it really well back in the day. This is over the summer. He highlighted exactly the inequity of what was going on.
Sean, right now there are 157 hotels in New York City that are completely full of illegal immigrants. Let me just repeat that number. 150 hotels in New York City that are completely full of illegal immigrants. New York City alone spends over $1 billion a year on illegal immigrants. And then you see these pictures of husbands and wives and children who have lost everything. Their homes have floated down rivers. Their homes have been taken out by mudslides. Their vehicles are gone. Their picture albums are destroyed. Every sentimental value that they could ever possibly imagine is gone. Will never be brought back. And what does Kamala do? She comes out and offers $750. $750. The TV in the person's house costs more than $750, and you see the absolute destruction. Sean, of all the political things that I've seen in the last decade, this is the one that bothers me the most. Hands down, by far. We have spent $200 billion sending money over to Ukraine and Russia to see young, innocent 21-year-old kids in dirty trenches pop around corners and shoot each other in the face with AK-47s. You watch these videos on YouTube, the lives are expunged in a matter of seconds. $200 billion America has sent over there. Yet we can't take care of our own in Georgia and North Carolina and Virginia. In Florida, $750. We send billions to places like Pakistan. And they won't tell us that bin Laden is literally living next to their equivalent of West Point. Yet we offer devastated families, the very people you're showing on the screen right now, we offer devastated families $750. Sean, this is the worst administration in the history of the country. These aren't serious people.
And thank goodness they're not there anymore. But apparently the holdovers still think that we need to send money to New York City luxury hotels. Of the $59 million that DOGE found, I want to share with you, it was $59.3 million. $19 million was for direct hotel costs, while the balance funded other services, such as food and security. According to New York City Hall, the funds were not part of a disaster relief grant. Meanwhile, Mike Johnson is saying, well, let's clarify. These emergency relief funding things are separate from FEMA funds allocated to immigration, but said that the agency should not have been funding any of this border crisis by effectively, helping it along. I mean, of course you're going to come to New York. Hey, you get a free hotel room and you get special food. You get special food vouchers. Remember when The mayor of New York said, I'm going to get rid of these vouchers. They were giving them like cards for a lot of money. It was like $350 a week. So you could buy your own ethnically whatever food, because apparently if you're a refugee from Mexico or Guatemala or wherever, you need your special food. You can't eat whatever they're giving out at the Roosevelt Hotel. Give me a break. So remember this. FEMA's kicking out survivors of temporary housing in snowstorm and freezing temperatures back 2 weeks ago. On January 11th, that was a headline. All while these deep state bureaucrats are giving out our hard-earned taxpayer dollars, $59 million, so that they can have luxury hotels for illegals. You know who's not having any of it? The new FEMA interim director. This is when Cameron Hilton, I have his picture on the screen, he's responded and saying, I want to thank the DOGE team. Thank you for making me aware of this effective yesterday. Guess what? These have been suspended from FEMA. Personnel will be held accountable. And again, we have learned today, personnel indeed being held accountable. Here's the headline from the New York Post about all the money that went there. Here is the woman that is being fired. Well, one of the four employees, according to Daily Mail, that is being fired. It is high time. You know what? We need some accountability. Lots of accountability. Speaking of accountability, please make sure you are accountable for yourself, for your own retirement. Take advantage of this wonderful financial research company that I started with a very dear friend, Rob Horton, 76 Research. I want you to use code word dollar. Then you get the 76 report for just $1 a month, $1 a month for the first 2 months, and it goes to $9.95. Lots of information in there. A wealth of information, including some stock picks. If you are serious about investing, though, you'll want to look at the model portfolios. We have a resilience growth portfolio. We have a basic income provider portfolio, so that one day you retire. We have an inflation protection portfolio. Take a look at all of these things. It's important to look after yourself, because you know for certain that Uncle Sam's not going to be there. He better not be there, right? We're getting more and more information about everything that's happening. Things are getting blown wide open, and I'll tell you who's going to lead the charge on this. She just got a very interesting new gig. The representative from Florida, Ana Paulina Luna. Listen to her here.
It is with profound honor that I have been entrusted by Speaker Mike Johnson and Chairman James Comer to lead the House Oversight Task Force on Declassification of Federal Secrets. Together with the help of the White House, our intelligence allies, the Department of Defense, the Department of Justice, we will be conducting investigations into the following: the assassinations of JFK, RFK, and Dr. Martin Luther King, unidentified aerial phenomena, also known as UAPs, unidentified submerged objects, also known as USOs, the Epstein client list, the origins of COVID-19, and the 9/11 files. This task force will be a beacon of bipartisanship. On the Republican side, Representatives Burchett, Boebert, Burleson, Crane, Gill, and Mace will be joining me, although I'd like to note that I'm expanding this to the entire governing body and will be allowing certain members to waive on. Our first hearing is set for March. The date will be announced soon, and we've already initiated close to a dozen communications with various agencies, to include Pam Bondi at the Department of Justice and the Secretary of State. This will no longer be a task force that makes bold promises only to fade into irrelevance or send strongly worded letters. This will be a relentless pursuit of truth and transparency, and we will not stop until the American people have the answers they deserve. We will cut through the bureaucracy, challenge the stonewalling, and ensure that the American people finally get the truth that they have been denied for too long. If we are to endure and thrive as a nation, we must restore trust through transparency. The American people must be trusted to think for themselves, to form their own judgments from the truth that they are entitled to know. We've been treated like children for too long and kept in the dark by those we elected to serve us. It is my solemn duty to begin mending this trust, to form a new relationship between the government and the governed. Let us
Yes. Okay, we need that transparency. We need that trust. We have been so lacking that. I mean, if you lose the trust of the people, what do you guys have? Right? And believe me, you lost it. You lost it with your Russia stuff. Oh, and then that laptop that was nothing but a bunch of disinformation fed you courtesy of Rudy Giuliani. Turns out the whole thing was true, despite what the 51X spooks told you. Of course, they placed it in Politico, their letter that said, oh, that Russian disinformation is going to try and upend the election, when they actually knew, because the FBI was actually investigating since 2019 that laptop. Okay, so they lied to you. And they did it in Politico, a publication that they were paying on the side for those Political Pro subscriptions, 10 grand a pop, for goodness sakes, to the tune of some $8.4 million. Well, of course, they put it with the publication they trust, they pay. You see what's going on. Well, Elon Musk, he's there in the White House today, and he echoed exactly what Paulina Luna was saying. He echoed this importance of you got to have faith, right? And if you don't have transparency, what do you got? You're going to wind up like Russia pretty fast. And I'll tell you, all the Russians I know, they don't trust their government. We've basically become that. We can't trust our government because they lie over and over and over again about everything for whatever reason.
If there's not a good feedback loop from the people to the government, and if you have rule of the bureaucrat, if the bureaucracy is in charge, and then what meaning does democracy actually have? If the people cannot vote and have their will be decided by their elected representatives in the form of the president and the Senate and the House, then we don't live in a democracy. We live in a bureaucracy. So it's incredibly important that we close that feedback loop, we fix that feedback loop, and that the public's elected representatives, the president, the House, and the Senate, decide what happened.
Yes. Okay? It's really important. Quick shout out. In the interest of transparency, yes, we have advertisers on the show. So when you actually buy those products, it helps the show. It helps you because, well, if you take Balance in Nature like I do, I think you're going to feel pretty good. I take my fruits and veggies every day. Those are my vitamins. I've told you guys, you know what? I stopped taking vitamins for whatever reason, like probably after the time I was like 12, because I used to take the Flintstones. My mom would put it out with my breakfast every morning, Flintstone vitamins, and somehow along the way I just stopped taking vitamins and really didn't actually start taking them again. I mean, I try and eat well and everything, but I didn't start taking them again until over the course of the last year when Balance of Nature approached me about being one of the sponsors on the Trish Regan show. And so I tried it. I loved it. So far, so good. You know, I tell you all the time, I get 3 kids and everybody's always, it's like a revolving carousel of somebody having sniffles or a cold or, you know, the flu or whatever. And so far, so good. I'm still standing strong. And I actually think it has something to do with how I take care of myself, which means drinking plenty of water, getting regular exercise, and taking my daily vitamins, for goodness sakes. Fruits and veggies. You can get 35% off right now with my code word Trish. Go to balanceandnature.com, balanceandnature.com. Use code word Trish so you get the 35% off, plus the free shipping, plus money back guarantee. So no harm, no foul. Check it out, balanceofnature.com. Speaking of no harm, no foul, I got another one for you. Don't forget 76 Research, okay? Code word $. If you don't like it, you're out $1. I think you can spare it. You're not even out $1. What am I saying? We'll refund your $1 if you don't like it. Go to 76research.com. Sign up for the 76 report. If you're a serious investor, you actually need to be signing up for our model portfolios. We got 3 of them. Go check them all out there today at 76research.com. I'll tell you that this is amazing. I love seeing this video. I could watch it all day long. USAID, bye-bye. USAID, bye-bye-bye. Losing its letters on the building. 70 billion one year, 40 billion another year. This is a lot of money that was getting flushed through this thing. And the amazing thing is it was going, a lot of it anyway, to journalists, including journalists in the US. I mean, I'm not going to excuse the journalists around the world. Now we know why the folks over in Great Britain, right, are so liberal. 8% of their income comes from USAID. You could make an argument, and I'm not condoning this because I don't believe it, but I can understand somebody saying, you know, this is the CIA slush fund and we have certain agendas that we want to promote, and we're going to promote these overseas so that we have our view represented. Well, how do you justify Politico? If you watch this show, you know I've shown you this graphic before. This is my scribbling in red. I'm just amazed. $8.2 million. And you want to talk about a subscription cost. My goodness. $10,000 a month for these suckers. $10,000 a month. And you can see how they started spending like there was no tomorrow in 2024. I want this money back. I really do. I want every single cent of it back from the BBC, from Politico, from the New York Times. Hey, don't forget, Politico is a German company. That's Axel Springer. They can spare it. That's a big company. Let's get all of that back. What were they doing buying 10,000 zombie subscriptions that apparently nobody even used? And then this is unbelievable to me in the New York Times. They should just tell us, you know what? We are taxpayer funded. We are government funded. We are state media. We knew they were state media, but here's the proof. We got receipts, $26.9 million coming from the department, U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. This is thanks to Elon's group, followed by National Science Foundation, $19.15 million. You wonder why Anthony Fauci was getting all the puff pieces in the New York Times. This is why, guys, okay? This is why. You had all this money going to political, New York Times, Associated Press, Reuters, you name it, just disgusting amounts of money. And Chuck Schumer's out there saying, we want to keep
I'm going to stand with you in this fight. And we will win.
Chucky, what are you going to win? Nobody wants you to spend their money like that. Just look at the approval ratings of the president. 53% approval rating, including from some unlikely groups, minority groups, women. They like him. They like what he's doing. 70% of Americans saying, you know what? He's getting the job done. He's doing exactly what he promised he would do. And so what are you fighting? I'd really like to know. Oh, you're fighting, okay, all this USAID money that goes for all your pet projects. You've basically commandeered this thing and turned it to a Democrat Party slush fund. Why else would you have $2 million going for transgender operations in Guatemala? Tens of thousands of dollars going to a trans comic book in Peru? Or how about the 30-some-odd thousand dollars going to a trans opera in Colombia, or the DEI musical in Ireland? I mean, this is odd to me. This is very, very odd. Why? I mean, the trans stuff is odd enough, right? And like that's ended, by the way. Thank you. With this president, a lot of the DEI stuff is ending. Take a look at Google. Take a look at Disney. Everybody's ending it, all right? They're over it. So why was USAID trying to push this narrative all over the world? I was talking to my 76 research colleague about this just the other day, Rob Horton, and he had a theory, which is kind of interesting. I'll share with you. His theory was that they need to employ all these people somehow, some way. And so what better way than to put them into NGOs and give them some job in Timbuktu, perpetuating this, gender studies nonsense, because it's all part of that academic machine that has to turn out these PhD candidates and make sure that, they aren't suffering under all those loans, because how else are you going to be employed as a gender studies PhD?